Damn, I had this like new background set up that was like really funny.
I mean, this is pretty
And
good. I've seen this like on some reels that you and Chelsea have posted. I didn't realize there's the mystery science theater guys in the corner though.
oh no, that's not it. That
That's
oh
not what
that
that
they are
is?
there. Oh, that's they are there. I was
Yeah.
wondering what that was because boy, do I fucking hate them. Holy shit. I don't need and that's why I thought it was like something in the background that was like catching light, like with this idiot in it. I didn't realize it was fucking Servo and the boys.
What the fuck is
Um,
this background?
Okay, so this is from a movie called The Bloody Pit of Horror, which is an Italian movie from the 60s. And this is Mickey Hargitay. Mickey Hargitay was Mr. Universe. He was the original inspiration for Arnold Schwarzenegger as a boy.
Oh shit.
And he was married to Jane Mansfield. Um, and
It was.
is the father of Mariska Hargitay, who everybody knows from Law and Order SVU.
I knew none of this. I mean, I know
Well, there
who
you go.
Mariska Hargitay is, but that's it.
Yeah, but so that's her dad. This movie I loved a lot as a kid, and I still do as way older than I should be interested in it. But do you know that? Have you ever heard the death metal band Impetigo? Classic
I don't think
death
so.
metal band from like the 80s and 90s. I Ponch, who I grew up with, who was in bands with me, and I used to love Impetigo, and they used to have like clips from this play like before their songs like on the records, so that's how we found out about it as kids or whatever and tracked it down. Anyways, what I had on here earlier today I set up was a still from River of Fundament of you and Bobby standing over, but it didn't translate, so now we've got fucking, and I don't think I can do it mid
Yeah,
fucking
that's
Zoom,
okay.
so
I don't know.
we're kicking it with
That might be inappropriate for the gram anyway, depending on what the shot was. I think we were.
oh, it's just you guys at the table behind
Okay.
what I'm assuming is Barney in some sort of fucking fat pustule fucking weird makeup.
No,
I don't know.
I think it's some other guy. Anyway,
Oh,
can I say some things about you to kick this off. I've written down some stuff. Yeah, look
all
at
right.
your face. Is anything off limits in this conversation, by the way?
No. Let her rip.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna. Whatever. So I wrote. You are most recently the author of The Holy Day, the newest book out on Chelsea Hodson's press, Rose Books, and in my opinion, one of the best books of 2023. You've
Well,
also
fuck
written.
you.
Well,
Thank you. I meant thank you.
Yeah. Okay. You've also written a sort of cult sensation, experimental horror novel called Hunchback 88. And you're an artist and designer who has possibly defined the visual aesthetic of bands like Against Me and a bunch of other hardcore and punk adjacent acts. You've also designed the cover for a couple of my books and some other indie / alt-lit heavy hitters like Maggie Siebert. But we have perhaps a stranger shared history that I think might be an interesting way to start this conversation if you're okay discussing it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So you used to work at kink.com around the same time I was a porn performer. And, this is weird because we've had communication for like a decade at this point, and
Yep.
I don't fucking remember meeting you there. Did we
Yeah.
have any, like, did we actually talk back in the day? And also, what the fuck did you do there?
Okay, so there were probably a few instances of us talking, but not anything that was like substantial. Probably more just that I was buzzing around a lot and I talked to a lot of the performers
Right.
just to bullshit because I was there every day. So I was their set decorator from 2009 to 2012. And so I was always around, you know what I mean? Just like, I was always on set or buzzing around set because obviously the cool thing about Kink that maybe people don't realize that is obviously maybe a little different than some of the other houses that make adult movies was that it was pretty much like a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job. And the shoots happened in that perimeter, and that's how it was like literally like a day job, you know. So I was there all day when, you know, there's 4 or 5 shoots happening, having to bring in a fucking chair for somebody to, you know, get poked on, or somebody broke something, or hey Chris, do we have a bowling pin because we want to put it in this girl's ass, like shit like that, you know what I mean? So so chances are we probably said hello a few times. You were there a few times. I distinctly remember your last time there, which was
Okay.
a shoot with Lorelei Lee and Matresse Madeline that I think didn't go well. And like, I don't think you were extremely happy.
Well, that was not my
And-
last shoot there. That was my last shoot as a sub or bottom.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, you might have done some shit with Donna, like some fucking public disgraces, maybe, or
Yeah.
found in whatever fucking websites or sex and submission. But as a sub, yes, that is the last time I distinctly remember it, because I remember
Yeah.
very few shoots going wrong, or a performer coming out of it not psyched.
Yeah.
And I remember Madeline talking to me about being like, because I was like, oh, you know, that kid seems all right. He seems cool. What's up? And she was like, oh, it just, he doesn't want to fucking come here anymore, or something like that. It was something like that. And I was like, and I think again, it was your last shoot there as a sub.
Yeah.
You know,
and I probably
because also both of those bitches are mean as fuck in
Yeah.
character. Like
Oh,
they're
yeah.
brutal as hell. So like, I understand why no one would want to fucking sub, you know, like, so I get it.
I think this is like
but
a
anyways,
transition for me around that time, just around that shit in general. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to fucking talk shit about anyone. I'm sure they're both.
No, I'm,
But
yeah, they are. I mean, I don't hear from, I wasn't really close with Lorelei because she, you know, but I was close with Madeline. So on occasion I'll hear from her. So, you know, whatever. She knows she's a psychopath. So it's not, you know, like, we're not talking shit, dude. She knows she's bloodthirsty when the red light goes on. You know what I mean? So like, it's fine. But yeah, that's what I remember about that. And then after that, leaving there, you know, just generally aware of you, and then us getting together for children's stuff,
right.
which I don't remember how that happened. Maybe it was Chad.
Yeah, so again, this is all strange in my mind, and it's so fucking funny now that we are both like putting out books in this kind of weird world.
Yeah.
But Chad
Yeah.
up, God, this is also 10 plus years ago, more than
Mhm.
that at this point, and he was like, I don't know if he'd met you, because I feel like he rarely, if ever, shot at Kink, and I'm not really sure.
I don't think he did. Yeah. I can't remember. It might have just been mutuals, just might have been, I don't even know. I actually have no fucking idea. But all of a sudden he was in my orbit.
For people who have no idea what the fuck we're talking about, we were in a like industrial metal band for a while called Children, and yeah, you did some shirts for us.
Yep.
And I didn't really have a full understanding of like who the fuck you were back then, except that Chad was like, this guy does really crazy art and he works at Kink. And like, cool, like whatever.
Yep.
And then slowly, you know, I got hip to like the fact that you were writing, that you wrote this kind of insane book called Hunchback 88. I think you mailed me one of the early copies of that. And
the first printing on the other thing, Permanent Sleep Press, before it was on Inside the Castle, I did. Probably because, and it was probably around the time of your not Wolves, but Body to Job or whatever, right? Is that the name? Why am I forgetting that?
Yeah.
What's your second?
Yeah, the second, real one.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but the presentation of it was really interesting and came to me in like this, it was like wrapped in newspaper that I feel like was signed by you also, maybe. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, it was a I made this thing called the Cheater Bleeder, and essentially it was like cliff notes
Okay.
for the book that was like descriptions of all the beats, you know, that I put into I got printed into this giant newsprint thing, and had like a poster on the flip side, like just a piece of just throwaway art. And I wrapped every book in it so that they would get all nasty and fucking newsprinty and ruin the white thing. Anyone who's not seen it, ever. The first thing of Hunchback 88 is essentially like begins and ends with there's no fucking chapters, there's no info. It just starts on the first page, and it was just like, first page is the cover, last page is the fucking title of the book. And they were white, much like The Holy Day is. And I wrapped it in newsprint to fuck it up and get nasty. So yeah, you definitely got that wrapped in newsprint, stuffed in a fucking manila envelope, you know. And it was probably around that time, and I think that's when we were like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like becoming friends, peers, everything, and starting our working relationship, because soon after, you know, I'm working on The Magician with you.
Right.
You know.
Well, let me pause for a second, because
let's do it.
I have a question, because your literary work, in my opinion, has this very unique style, and so like, for example, your new book, The Holy Day, like the first 100 pages or so are like these poetic stanzas, and then we get into what I would consider like the novel portion of the book, which feels mostly told from this first person perspective, but it does seem to be much more about atmosphere than plot, in my opinion.
Yeah, and definitely
a lot of the emotional tone of the book is like delivered through these sort of like viscerally disgusting descriptions of rot, like internally, externally. And I remember finishing the book and having identified this protagonist like as a man, and then I listened to you or read an interview with you where you described this person as a woman, and I was thinking back, like, is there any delineation as to this character's like identity in certain ways, or did I just fucking miss it? And all of that aside, though, if someone were to look at my work, I think it's really obvious as to my early influences, because I think they're the same as like a lot of people working in like alternative literature right now. It's just like we all fucking jock like Bret Easton Ellis and Dennis Cooper.
Yeah.
But like who the fuck are your influences? Like, how did you learn to write like this? It's very different than most of the stuff I pick up in this same scene.
Who are my, well, I mean, I have the same kind of influences, obviously, like Cooper.
Right.
Most importantly, not Cooper actually so much, but Cooper's The Sluts is pretty fucking essential to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge reader. That might be really where it comes from. Really? Like I don't read. You know, I read when a friend does something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you're like, you know, you send me the thing that isn't published yet, you know what I mean? It's like I read stuff like that. If you're a friend and I think that you rule, I'm reading your thing because you're just another artist who I love and who I'm friends with. And there's an obligation there, but also like I'm interested because there's a reason why I think you're fucking thick. And chances are, realistically speaking, if I talk to you more than fucking once and you're not paying me for something, chances are I like your art and I'm always interested in it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who like I will become friends with or whatever, and I'll just be like, yeah, that's fine. Your art's kind of terrible, and I won't talk to him so much. Anyways, doesn't matter. We're not going to go on that tangent of me being an asshole. But I would say, like, realistically speaking, people who write cinematically are who interest me the most. And so when I was considering writing a book and was actually like, I was going to really, and this is like another wave of people who all of us kind of fucking jock, is that like Robe Grier or Marguerite Duras, who are both filmmakers second, writers first, but part of that French New Novel, Claude Simon, like people like that who are like deconstructing the novel at that time in France or whatever, are people who I was drawn to because I think that most people's writing is fucking boring to me. And I think that like the idea of writing, and then I opened the door, then I sat down, I put on my shoes, I looked out the window, like that kind of writing to me is fine. And some people can kind of, and I love that dryness, but like I can't read it because I've got other things to do. I can think of fucking 40 movies that I want to sit through rather than 10 hours reading a fucking book. So when I found those people's, I came to Robe Grier backwards because I knew the movies and Duras. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I knew those movies because I love movies. And so I was like, oh yeah, they're writers too. And then I started figuring that out. And this was probably like, I don't know, 15 years ago or so. And I've read through those. I've read more of those than I've read real books. And I still get excited about. So to me, and like, let's be honest, Rob Gray is all about atmosphere.
Right.
It's also about kink, and it's also about his weird S&M love and all this other bullshit. But realistically speaking, he's talking to you about a room that some asshole's in, but he's talking to you more about the room than he is about the asshole, you know, a lot of the time. Or somewhere in those, are like in the labyrinth and shit like that. Jealousy. And so I would say that how I figured out how to write like this is I've always naturally, even in character as Stake Mountain, writing blog posts and being like an asshole, I really just naturally came to this rhythmic, verbose, idiotic kind of writing early on. And I swear, you know, I couldn't tell you who I was influenced by writing like that, but it just kind of what came out. And I think maybe I'm just not stupid enough to be able to turn it into something that could be linear in some capacity. Like, I don't know how I got here.
But when you're talking about like writing blogs or working on this for a long time, like it's very obvious to me that this is something you've been doing for a while. And I think when you say something like, I don't read, first of all, I don't entirely believe you, because we just discussed some like pretty heavy influences like Duras and Brie and stuff. But I've spoken with people. Okay, so I don't want to name names here because I'm about to be an asshole. But I do have at least one friend who has written several books and has told me like I don't read. And in the early iterations of like one of the things he wrote, he sent it to me and it was like fucking awful. And I told him that, and I was like, you can't put this out. Like you need to have someone edit this. And he didn't care, and he paid someone else, and it still, in my opinion, was pretty bad. And it was sort of like just getting, anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't know what his perspective was, but you know, for what you're doing, I spoke to Chelsea recently, and she said, you know, when she was working on this book with you, she got the draft from you and was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And then there were another 1,000+ edits coming in, meaning like you must have some very specific ideas about what you're doing formally and otherwise, which I don't think would come from someone who's just like, I don't know what this is. I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess it's,
yeah.
I read. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't read as much as all of you read.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think like a good time on a Saturday afternoon is picking up a book and reading. That sounds fucking terrible to me.
So what are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you?
I'm watching movies.
You're watching movies. Okay.
All the time. Like, if I've got a free moment, I'm watching a movie every fucking time. I got 93 minutes, then I'm going to watch a movie. That's how I spend a lot of my time. And that's clearly more of what my influence is on writing. Yes, I read. But again, like I don't read all y'all putting your like 10 best books of fucking 2023 out there and shit. And I'm seeing all the same names and everything else. You're all reading a lot of the same stuff, not bad stuff, I assume. But like, I don't know anything about any of these fucking things because I don't care. Like, I'm not interested. You know what I mean? So because I just don't have the time. My focus is truly my focus on a certain kind of art is very specific. I love all kinds of art, but I love movies, and that's time consuming. And there's not a day goes by that I probably find out about 5 new movies I want to see on top of the 10,000 fucking movies that I need to watch by the time I'm dead.
I gave up on movies several years ago. I watch maybe 4 a year now. I can't do it anymore. But it has to do with me. I work at the computer and I don't want my free staring at a screen.
No, totally. So to me, like it's not that I don't read, and I just think that like those edits, how I work on a book, like, listen, I fucking wish I could write just a fucking Jackie Collins novel. I wish I could write a Robert Ludlum novel. I wish I could write a basic bitch thing that like I think is boring as fuck. I wish. That sounds so awesome. But I don't know how I write. And I just figure it out. And I never concerned about plot. I am concerned about atmosphere.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily so pointed in it in those edits or anything else to figure out like how to make it more confusing for people. That's like not my intention. I'm not that pretentious. I wish I was that pretentious. I wish I was that smart that I had a puzzle in mind. I just kind of truly write intuitively and edit intuitively. And some things are more about rhythm to me than they are about clarity or anything else. So when Chelsea, granted, in this case with Chelsea,
Yeah.
when she came on board to decide to put out the Holy Day on Rose Books, it was 100% me having like not a crisis of faith, but a realization that a wave of you and I's weren't going to be just reading the book, that other people were going to actually be reading the book who are like fucking basic as fuck. You know what I mean? Because her fan base is wide and huge and everybody loves Chelsea. Fucking fuck up like miscreants like us love Chelsea. Fucking girls who fucking love their lattes in navy blue like Chelsea. Like it's a million people kind of love Chelsea's writing. So I just was like, fuck, dude, with the heat that Chelsea's getting off of this fucking thing, I was like, can I turn this into something normal? As normal as it could be. So right now the Holy Days is as normal as I can get. Right. And so she got an edit back, like she said, of 2,000 edits.
2,000 edits.
Like she like went away for 2 months because she was like working on Jeff's thing. And she was like, we'll get to you. Let's have a couple more talks about strategy on what we want to do with your book, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, okay, I'm done with my edits. And she was like, 2,000 edits, and some of it was punctuation. Some of it was like, I edit like this. I edit both books like this. I'll open my phone because I don't do it on the computer usually. And I will just fucking scroll and it'll stop and I'll start reading, and I'll be like, oh, this needs to get changed. This seems weird. You know what I mean? Like things like that. So,
but do you think
once I
sort of this rhythmic thing that you're talking about, because you have like a pretty heavy background in music, right? I mean, do you think that has something to do with it? The way that you go about this? No, you're shaking your head.
I don't think so. Chelsea asked me this too in the dialogues thing that we did for the hardcover. And if I was in bands that sounded like something, maybe, you know what I mean? But I was in hardcore bands. I was in like grindy, trashy, like that had no breakdowns and no mosh parts and no, you know what I mean? It was like a lot of blitzkrieg. So if I was in I don't know, if I made fucking techno or if I was a fucking soul person or, you know what I mean? Or I had something that had some sort of structure or I did fucking musical theater, maybe. I think it's just my natural ability. And listen how I fucking talk. You know what I mean? Like I am like, it is this really staccato-y, annoying fucking thing on how I speak. You know what I mean? Especially when I get fucking worked up. So I just think it's like a natural thing. And I think about, and I think this has a lot to do with rhythm and how I think about time a lot. I get worried about time. I like to be on time. I think about the minutes that something is until it's like not anxiety. I just think about it a lot. And I think that somewhere in there you find a rhythm too, because you're basically like skipping to get to a certain time. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. That's more of an expansive thing that I'm just throwing that out there. So yeah, no, I don't think so. Music, no. I love musicals. So sometimes I attribute it to that.
Okay. Well, whatever. I mean, look, you're obviously very into cinema. As a quick aside, I have this question because
sure.
We ostensibly met at kink.com, which is which is the SM porn company. At least it used to be. I'm not as familiar anymore, but let's say it probably still is. It
exists.
Yeah. Well, and then I feel like you have some interest in this, and yet, in my opinion, I'm going to put this out there. Probably, I don't think many people will watch this who will give a fuck, but people are like heavily into SM, especially the theatrics of it, have like the worst aesthetic taste in my opinion. Like everyone is
Oh,
dressed as like a fucking like they went to Ren Fair. It's embarrassing. Of course, everyone at Kink is mostly like the people are like porn stars and maybe have no interest in the lifestyle. I mean, were you drawn to this because you're into this actually, or you just wanted a job?
no, no. This is a long story. So now I'm going to
Well,
tell it.
we don't have all
How
the
about
time, but give me as much as you want.
um, so one, aesthetically, I love the way SM looks. Obviously, I come from a horror movie background.
You do
Maybe,
love the way
and so
SM looks. Okay.
I do love it. Not the people, not off hours when you're like, why do you smell like patchouli? Like not that, but like the just the basic idea of leather chains in a dungeon is an exciting aesthetic to me.
That's cool.
Obviously. So, but as far back as I can remember, I wanted to direct pornography. I didn't want to direct regular movies. I wanted to direct pornography because to me, pornography.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, pornography in its base level is the most interesting cinematic outlet and the most experimental with the greatest commercial return. How I always describe it, and as somebody, I always describe this to somebody who's not worked in the fucking business, is that like to me, pornography is the ultimate experimental area for any filmmaker because you can constantly be doing different things, trying different stories, and you have 10 minutes to kind of create your story, do your thing, then you get the fuck out of the way and let big dick and giant pussy in and go to work. You know what I mean? Like, and I love that about it. And I love that it's a renegade kind of genre. You know what I mean? Like in the sense that like it is the most just like publicly like shamed thing that everybody secretly watches. That's exciting to me. Like as a genre. Like it's fucking cool that everyone's like, oh, porno, whatever. But everybody knows who Angela White is. You know what I mean? Like, everybody knows who fucking whatever. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows who these people are. And so I always thought that was really interesting. And a lot of filmmakers who I loved as growing up, especially European like genre filmmakers, when the 70s happened, they couldn't just make their lesbian vampire movies anymore. They had to put hardcore in there. So a lot of people kind of got like, ghettoized into pornography, but created some of their most interesting stuff. And a lot of US filmmakers working in that golden era, there's incredibly beautiful, exciting adult films from that era that are just real movies with fucking in it. Right. You know what I mean? And so I was always really influenced, and I thought to myself, this is the ideal place for me. But growing up in Tampa, you do get a piece of like that kind of shitty world. You know what I mean? Because obviously people lived down there. Peter North lived there, and all these people lived in Tampa. But getting into the industry was always like something that I was like, I love this, but I have no fucking idea how to do this. And I don't really chase dreams or fucking things. I just go, I'd like to do this. And if it presents itself, I go that route. So flash forward to obviously like around 2008, 2009, obviously the alt porn boom is in fucking full swing. Suicide Girls is happening. Joanna's doing Burning Angel. Fucking Dave Naz is directing for Vivid Alt. All these things are happening, right? And you're like, oh, there's a possibility that I actually could get into this. So I had a friend who worked at kink.com as a photo editor. And I was in New York, and I didn't want to be here anymore. I was about to move to Berlin I was like going to move to Berlin, and I decided not to do that. And then my friend Rick at Kink was like, hey, there's a job here for a set decorator. And I was like, okay, cool. So I applied, and the guy who was the art director over there, this guy, Chris Gaw, he was like, come in for an interview. So I had to fly to San Francisco, you know what I mean? And was like, and it turned out that he was like an old hardcore guy, like an old punk guy.
Okay. So
he like looked at my resume, and then he like looked at Stake Mountain, like all the design stuff. And he was like, I basically, I had to do an interview. I had an interview with the guys, all the team, and got fucking, cross-examined by everybody. And basically Chris Gaw was like, you have the job because I know that you can take a square and make things look nice in it, essentially a room.
Right.
He's like, and I must have pitched like how I knew about Avon and all these old SM fucking like houses that worked in 70s and 80s fucking New York, like smut. And so I was like, I really think I could do a great job at this. And so I got the job, moved to San Francisco with the hopes that I would eventually be able to direct. I made myself as useful as possible, got in on everybody's production, made friends with all the directors, made sure that the talent knew, you know, I was friendly with the talent because I wanted to set that road to be able to direct. And it turned out that I was able to direct a few.
Direct for Kink.
Yeah.
For what? What did you direct?
So I pitched a couple sites because obviously it's a site-based for anyone who is not a pervert and watches kink.com. It was site-based, you know what I mean? It wasn't just like, you know, Chelsea gets whipped or whatever, or fucking Joanne's fuck fest in the fucking dungeon. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like these one-off shoots. It was Sex and Submission. It was fucking, you know, Divine Bitches. It was all these sites in the kink family. And so I pitched a couple of sites that were, there was an initiative at Kink because they brought in this psychopath to be the head of production who had worked for like Paramount, who was part of the Life. And they were looking to expand Kink, like to have it be some more vanilla-y, but still on brand sites that were more fetish based. And then also turn up the fucking heat. You know what I mean? And do some more extreme sites where the credit card companies would let them fucking actually, you know, as far as they could take it.
Right.
And so I pitched a couple sites. I pitched a big tit site and a peeping Tom site. And I directed test shoots for both. And also I did a upper floor thing. And for everyone who doesn't know, upper floor was this Victorian mansion that they built on top of the fucking armory, essentially. And they had parties every Friday night that they filmed and they broadcast live. So I directed one of those in the sense that like they wanted to throw me in the fire to see if I could handle a group of people. And I brought in Phoenix Marie and Tommy Pistol and one of the Kink people that just always fucked everybody. And I like set up some shoots, you know, some shots here and there and some scenarios. And so, and then I directed two, like I said, I directed two test shoots, and those test shoots went really well. They actually sold really well. But towards the end of my time there, I basically fell into just typical like red tape and backstabbing, where a lot of the directors who were there who counted on me to make their shoots awesome, weren't super excited that I wanted to move out of that position. So even though one of my test shoots sold more than any Kink on demand test shoot had ever sold before, they were like, no, we're not going to move Chris to directing. And I was like, oh yeah, well, watch this. I'm going to leave. So I left, you know? So that's the long fucking story. Okay. That's short. That's not that long. So yes, I love pornography as an art form, you know, like, and so I'll probably never direct again. Because now getting back into it is...
Sorry, I'm on the free Zoom and there's a cutoff point, which is at about 6 minutes. But
okay.
But like, do you still think this is true? Well, there's two questions I kind of want to bunch together at the end here.
Sure.
Because you talked to me, like your writing is obviously so much about atmosphere, and you're talking about everything you like, which is about the room and how everything looks. And even in talking about porn, like this kind of, because everything about porn, when you're talking about directing, is really like just setting the stage in that first 5 to 10 minutes, right? And then like people fuck, and it's hard to really direct at that point, you know. But
just make sure you got the coverage.
Yeah,
everyone's open.
You know, you have the scenario, and I guess with SM stuff, you got to have them tied in various situations. But first of all, like, do you think this is, when you're talking about like porn as this art form, do you think this is over because of OnlyFans and like the way things work now? Because I'm not as entrenched anymore, and I've almost removed myself because of my fucked up feelings towards the industry. But at the same time, I watch porn on occasion, and when I get on Pornhub, there's none of what you're talking about. This is mostly people, like real people with their fucking phone or whatever, right? Or mainstream porn studios that have just moved in the same direction as like TikTok, which is we just need a million scenes that don't have anything going on. The other thing though is like you have put pieces of screenplays in your books, and you've talked about wanting to do movies. Go, because we have so little time. I don't know. tell me what you.
One, it was over when I went to kink.com.
Yeah.
Like kink.com was the last vestige of creativity to me.
Yeah.
Like, because I was like, okay, this place I could actually do cool shit. I would direct a beach guy and a beach girl in a beach house. Fucking, that's not a big deal either. I would do all of that because I'm interested in just the idea of it.
Right.
But I do think that like that creativity is over to a certain degree. Maybe we'll see a rise in it, but on a level that's moneyed, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's some dirt porn out there for some fucking scrub ass fucking Gen Z kids making weird shit and fucking on it. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, fair.
You know what I mean? And we may never see it. But on a major scale, yeah, no. They just want enough that you know, people can jerk off and they get 1 million views. It doesn't matter. It just has to be 2 hot people or 1 hot person and a big dick or whatever. Right. Or 2 big dicks that are incredible on amazing bodies and ugly faces. I mean, let's be honest about gay porn. There's a lot of fucking busters out there who have giant dicks, amazing bodies, and bust ass faces. Yeah. So like, and then the second is I forget now what you asked.
Movies, just movies in general. You in the future, like, what are you aiming for here? Because it does seem like you kind of want to do movies or screenplays or something, right?
Yeah, I would, but it takes a lot of ambition to do it, and I don't think I'll ever do it because it takes too much work to get there. I'll just keep writing these stupid little things, and maybe not. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like maybe somebody will be like, oh, that'd be incredible. Why don't you write me a fucking, you know, I know a lot of filmmakers who make things that people watch. So like, you know, maybe someday somebody will get a copy of a book that I've written and they'll be like, oh, there is a story here. Let's turn this into something. Let's develop it. Maybe. But will I chase it? Probably not, because that's literally too ambitious for me. And I'm way lazier than that. You know, like I really do.
Okay. Well, it doesn't.
You know, I do rely on my Rolodex to get a lot of things done. Yeah. I know this is such a brag, but like I know a lot of people who do a lot of cool shit. I have a collection of fucking people that I think are incredible that I always like. I befriend artists and interesting creative people because I like to be able to be like, oh, this is a cool project. Maybe this person. Or I put myself in front of somebody who's like, oh, maybe we could do this together. You know what I mean? So like maybe someday that'll happen. But do I want to build it from the ground up and fucking chase financiers? And no, I don't.
Me neither. All right. Well,
it sounds terrible.
It does sound terrible. I don't know. I don't know how to get anything accomplished like that. But books, your books are great. We have 2 minutes left. Do you want to say anything else here?
No, nothing else. I mean, other than like, I mean, obviously, thank you for doing this with me.
Of course.
You know what I mean? You know, and I don't really have anything coming up. I do have things coming up that I need that I could plug eventually this year, maybe next year. There'll be a Stake Mountain book, which I've been resistant to for as long as possible. Don't get too excited because I'm definitely doing it in a self-defeating way that won't make anybody happy unless you know the bit. You know what I mean? So it's going to be really sloppy. And the reason, and I've known about it for about 2 years and I've not done anything on it. And I just started working on it, but I had the idea that's going to be silly. Combat Wounded Veteran, which was my band when I was a kid, is reissuing all of our records sometime this year. The first one to coming up is going to be the I Know a Girl Who Develops Crime Scene Photos reissue. It's coming out on Dark Operative. Probably in the next month and a half or 2 months, it'll get announced. It has a new cover, which is so terrible. I'm so excited about it. Might be my masterpiece. And it's so just self-defeating to the band and everything else. And so pretentious in its true willingness to be difficult. And that's about it. I don't know. You got a book coming out I'm excited for. I did the cover for Creation.
It's got a little love letter in it to you, which is